Oh, man, oh, man.
She's a very low IQ person.
Crockett's going to bring him back.
I am just shocked that stunning, insightful, and profound message didn't resonate with the general public in Texas. Guys, first, we're going to start, and it feels weird to even say this on this podcast, with good news, with something that, if you're like me, will warm your soul a little bit, because we deal with so many things that are so bleak and so frustrating, but now it's like we finally get something that might make you smile, and that is watching the implosion of the political career of perhaps the most toxic and acerbic and noxious and reductionist voice in the Democratic Party, who's been turned into this big star and this big darling because CNN and MSNBC love her so much. I'm speaking, of course, about Jasmine Crockett, the Texas Congresswoman, who is kind of skyrocketed to fame for being extremely crass and vulgar and rude and saying extraordinarily abrasive things like anyone who's up against DEI is just mediocre white boys and all this other kind of stuff. And she basically gave up her seat in Congress to run for the Senate seat in Texas, a statewide, obviously, election to become the senator from Texas. And she lost the Democratic primary last night, not even getting the nomination, let alone getting to go on to the general election, to a guy who we've also talked about on the show named James Talarico, who is very progressive in his actual views and has made some eyebrow-raising statements over the years for sure, but comes off as more polished and thoughtful and considered than Jasmine Crockett. Although I guess that's kind of saying skinnier than Lizzo in the sense that that doesn't take much. Anyway, this is a delightful moment for me. Let's watch the Fox News coverage of Miss Crockett's career going down in flames.
On the Democratic side, James Talarico defeated Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in that hotly contested primary. In his victory speech, Talarico talked about leading a movement.
This movement is about whether the people will hold the power in this state and in this country. We launched this underdog campaign 6 months ago in my hometown of Round Rock, Texas. And since then, tens of thousands of Texans have shown up to rally with us in every corner of the state.
Crockett, meantime, cited voting issues in Dallas and said that, in her words, people have been disenfranchised.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even going to get into that, but she did start complaining about election cheating, which is just rich coming from Democratic elected officials. But obviously, I think the margin ended up being quite significant. So the idea that it's some electoral abnormality that rather than just a genuine outcome of a primary that she lost is not true. And so there's so much to say about this. But let's just say, this is my shocked face, that the message that Jasmine Crockett had for the world is not, in fact, palatable to voters in Texas, especially voters who want to, and it's still almost certainly not going to happen. This Talarico guy it's not impossible that he could flip the Senate seat blue, given that the Republican nominee may potentially be Ken Paxton, who has all the baggage in the world, and that the headwinds will be at the Democrats' back, and the Republicans, obviously, I think are going to have a tough time in the midterm election. But still, for a Democrat to win in Texas in a statewide election for the Senate is probably not going to happen. And I think Talarico has a better chance than Crockett, but anything is greater than zero. Any chance at all is greater than zero. And that's the chance she had, in my view, at least. But what's fascinating to me about this is that her genius campaign strategy, truly genius stuff, appears to not have resonated. I'm going to, in just a second, show you one of her big ones that she did, where she thought she really cooked, she thought she ate, she dropped this campaign ad. Without further ado, let's look at the ad that she put out very early on in this primary campaign, and you'll see why I'm just stunned this didn't resonate with people. Let's listen.
How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her?
She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person.
Crockett. Oh, man, oh, man.
She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
Guys, I am just shocked that that stunning, insightful, and profound message didn't resonate with the general public in Texas. It's like, first off, imagine just posting your L's like this, like Trump, whatever you think of him, right? He's obviously kind of funny and good at roasting people, and you're just posting him eating you up with no reply, and that's your ad. And it's like, you got to offer, especially in Texas, and I understand it's a Democratic primary, so there's a lot of Trump hate in the base, but you got to offer a little more than just like, I'm against Trump and Trump doesn't like me. It's like, that is not a compelling message to people who are struggling to pay their bills. Offer them some substance. Now, she had other stuff to her campaign, but it was very telling that that was what she went with as a great focus very early on. It's like, oh, I'm the anti-Trump word. It's like, yes, that's why CNN loves you. That's why MSNBC loves you. Also because you're a black woman and you cite race and bring up race in these inflammatory woke ways all the time. That's another reason that people in media really uplifted Jasmine Crockett. But normal people want to hear about how you're going to help them pay their bills. And yeah, obviously any candidate in the Democratic primary for Senate is going to be anti-Trump. So it doesn't make you stand out or like offer anything special or show how awesome you are. It just was a total misfire to me, a total misread of the moment, and showed that while she had huge amounts of fundraising and media support, she clearly didn't have a cogent and coherent message. And that's what you actually need to win an election. And she didn't. Now, what was funny to me was that people really do seem to think that she is something she is not. And I think maybe they're just like stun locked by their identity politics, and they can't bring themselves to admit that a black woman could be a terrible politician. And so here is MS Now describing Crockett and Talarico as two of the most effective communicators in the Democratic Party. Let's watch.
Especially by Crockett and Talarico. They're two of the most effective communicators in the entire Democratic Party right now.
Yeah, when we were seeing the leaderboard there, you see them on your screen right now, and they look like a great pair of running mates. You know what I mean? Like, can one of you just be vice senator? Can we do that?
Oh my God. The Delulu is off the charts. Are the effective communicators in the room with us? Here's a montage that Fox News put together of Jasmine Crockett being an effective communicator. Listen to this.
Somebody slap me and wake me the up, because I'm ready to get on with it.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
When I see ICE, I see slave patrols. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
I just love it. This is their effective communicator. And listen, I think Talarico is, maybe you could call him an effective communicator. He hasn't really been tested, I don't think, and there's a lot of baggage on him that's going to come out. He said some pretty radical stuff over the years. However, listen, this idea that Jasmine Crockett is an effective communicator beyond the most like 10% of white guilt, self-loathing, like MSNBC white wine moms, they love her. Yeah, she is an effective communicator to them in the sense that she just tells them what they want to hear. She affirms their energy and they find her entertaining. She's not an effective communicator in any sense beyond that. She is a terrible representative for the Democratic Party. She kind of actually embodies the worst elements of Trump himself: the crassness, the vulgarity, the nastiness, the ad hominem, without the redeeming value that people find in Trump, and without the humor, and it's not funny, and without the kind of just invulnerability that he seems to have, where he is judged by a separate set of standards compared to any other politician by people. And then she also simultaneously has this like brand that makes for headlines and media moments. That's why reporters and hosts love her, because she'll come on their show and she'll make news. But she seems like perfectly calibrated in a lab to be toxic and radioactive beyond the people they already have on their side. So how are you an effective communicator to the general public if only people who are already strongly in your camp like you, and everyone else, almost everyone else, finds you off-putting and abrasive? But of course, Crockett's supporters on the internet are instantly crying racial grievance and identity politics, even though James Talarico was very complimentary of her throughout the race, saying very nice things about her that are objectively not true. And really, it was not a negative race in terms of them mudslinging at each other at all. But her supporters are already playing the victim and invoking her race. Let's look at a couple tweets that are blowing up. A Democratic commentator, Keith Edwards, wrote, "The primary is over. Let's come together and do something Democrats have not done for a generation. Shock the world and flip Texas blue." Good luck with that one. And to which someone replied, "Hard pass on quote-unquote rally behind Talarico energy when his supporters spent the primary attacking a black woman and treating anyone who backed her like a traitor. Electability shouldn't just mean white and polished. Some of us will remember how y'all acted." All right, this is ridiculous on so many levels. Attacking a black woman. Well, okay, they were running against each other in an election, so yes, you criticize the other person. Now, there was not some widespread, obviously on the internet you can find examples of anything, but James Talarico certainly never attacked her in a racist way, and most of his supporters didn't. But yeah, are they supposed to not attack her because she is a black woman? She just gets to run unopposed and unchallenged? What in the bizarre racial hierarchy inversion of like identity classes is that? That's insane and gross to suggest. And the idea that like Talarico was very clear that if Jasmine Crockett won, he would support her. So the infighting is obviously going to sabotage them if this has significant buy-in. And it's hard to kind of evaluate the extent to which this is an online drama versus real world phenomenon. But even if it like depresses the vote 5% for Democrats, then there goes any chance they have a flip in the seat. But I already would say it's not impossible, but very, very unlikely. And I just find it hilarious that so many of Jasmine Crockett's online supporters are still doing the identity politics stuff, and they don't realize that no one gives a anymore. You can say, "I'm a black woman," and we're still going to hit you with the same criticisms, and the shield and weaponization of it all no longer is effective. Okay, we're so over it. But people on Twitter, some of them are not. So here was another post. "Jasmine was the fighter that y'all wanted, but the minute she ran for higher office, y'all bolted on her for the powdery white man. So much for wanting black women in higher office. Don't ever play in our faces again, y'all." Oh my God, what are these people doing? The powdery white man. Is that like just a racist insult against James Talarico? What does that mean, that he's powdery? Like, imagine if you called the black person ashy, like in this context. That is crazy work. And it's like, I don't know. Is she just entitled to the Democratic nomination because she's a black woman? And y'all said you want black women in higher office, but then this particularly toxic, abrasive, and unelectable one you didn't support, so you must not really care about black women. No, that's not how this works. And I'm sorry, but the fact that this kind of identity politics still has a significant cultural power in the Democratic Party is to its extreme own detriment. It's like perfectly just the perfect kind of sauce to undermine a party and a movement and providing any sort of organized alternative to Trump. They're still doing this, and it's still pathetic and insane. But I have to say, Jasmine Crockett gave up her seat in Congress to run for this race, which never made a ton of sense to me because she was never going to win. I didn't think, at least. And she has built her profile. She has built her donor lists and all this stuff. And maybe she could be angling for like a VP slot in 2028. But why anyone would pick her would be beyond me. I don't know what the end game here is, but it makes no sense to me, the decision she's made. Obviously, you know, there's always the fallback that I'm sure MSNBC would love to have her as a contributor and on the couch every day, yapping about mediocre white boys and all that. But so often in politics, we see the worst get ahead, and we see just terrible things happen and no karma or accountability for toxic people. So on the rare occasion that somebody who's truly as toxic as Jasmine Crockett gets hit with a little bit of karma and accountability, I find her tears delicious. And I'm going to spend probably several days just enjoying this and enjoying every post, every tweet, coping and seething. Your tears are delicious, and they're giving me joy.